Ding or Gukesh?
Gukesh.
All the signs point to a clear and dominating Gukesh victory.
And Ding has not looked good. There is a chance that he's not going to come back to the same level that he was.
Just about everyone is predicting an Indian Gukesh victory in the World Championship. But as Ding's friend and fan, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why Ding is going to prove them wrong. If you look at the ratings and form, Gukesh has been on an unstoppable rise. At the young age of 18, with his talents and discipline, it makes sense that he's still improving. On the other hand, Ding has been in a downward spiral ever since he became world champion, being unable to win a single game of classical chess since January. If we take a look at the recent chess Olympiad, Gukesh led India to victory with a bloodthirsty rampage of 9 wins and 2 draws, whilst Ding was harmless as China's board 1, with 7 draws and a devastating loss to Vietnamese star Le Quang Liem. So, it's no surprise that betting sites are predicting Gukesh as the overwhelming favourite, with an 82% win probability. Now, let me tell you why it's easy money to bet on Ding. Number 1. Gukesh is no match for peak Ding. You kids these days, you don't know how good peak Ding was. He calculated like an engine whilst having flawless intuition. In my recent interview with the world number 8, fearless Chinese super grandmaster Wei Yi, here's what he had to say when I asked how he compared with Ding.
好，那首先我不想和丁立人做太多的比较，因为他非常厉害，他在巅峰时期，我觉得他是适合每一种局面的。
他也是你的好兄弟啊。
对，所以我觉得我可能跟他比还有一些差距，那我就和其他一些队友做比较。
I'll admit, Gukesh is strong, and he'd probably spank an international master like me blindfolded. But he's no match for peak Ding. Of course, Ding hasn't been at his peak for a long time. But that leads me to reason number 2 why Ding is going to win. Ding's form has been returning. If you look only at the results and rating chart, it's impossible for you bozos to understand this statement. But as a Ding superfan, I've been studying every single game of his, and I'm going to enlighten you. Ding had a phase where he was playing absolutely terribly, infamously blundering mate in 2 against Magnus. But in Ding's recent tournaments, he's been playing fantastic chess, getting himself into plenty of winning positions. For example, at the prestigious St. Louis tournament, he played a positional masterpiece against America's world number 2, Fabiano Caruana. And at the Olympiad, he got himself positions where he could have easily won 4 or 5 of his 7 draws. Form is temporary, class is permanent. So, why hasn't he won any of these games? Well, he's been missing the final 1% to finish his opponents off because he's lacking confidence. And who wouldn't lack confidence after taking a break from chess and having so many bad results? But guess what? Reason number 3 is that Ding just crushed Gukesh in game 1. This game 1 win is going to give Ding that crucial last 1% he needs to win the match. This win gives Ding the final ingredient to play like peak Ding: confidence. I'm recording this video just after game 1, and Ding made Gukesh look like my dad. My dad loves chess, and I love my dad. But he's a terrible chess player, 1900 at most. Let me recap for you how Ding made the world number 5 look like a noob. We get a French defense, one of Ding's trusted openings, and very quickly Gukesh steers it into a sideline with knight c to e2. This strange looking move is about vacating this c3 square so that the pawn can come to c3 and defend the center. But it's definitely not the main line. Normally, knight comes to f3, bishop comes to e3, and there's thousands and thousands of games. But Gukesh is looking to steer it into unknown territory for Ding. And after knight c6, c3, here Ding spends a really big amount of time to come up with his plan. And here I was really quite worried for Ding, because to spend like 20 something minutes here, it's almost like he was paralyzed. He comes up with a5, which is very, very logical in terms of taking space on the queen side. That pawn can keep going to a4 as well, which is what happened after Gukesh develops. and development continues. Bishop e3, bishop e7, and here Gukesh comes up with a new move, g4, which he plays very, very quickly. Here it's quite an aggressive move, right? In terms of looking to just crush black on the king side with f5. And now it's a big question for black. Do you castle into this? And potentially you can do it and then try and crash through on the queen side before you get checkmated. But Ding plays what I think practically is a very sensible move. He goes queen a5, making use of this pin and just activating the queen, keeping the king flexible in the center. So this rook stays on the h file, and I'm not going to get checkmated by getting my king stuck on g8. Gukesh now is out of book as well, and he decides to continue with bishop g2. Now this is a very interesting moment because actually a3 is a bit of a threat here. So Gukesh has the choice to play a3 himself, and that stops a3. But actually here black has two ideas. He's got a3 and f6. So if white plays against a3, we can play f6, and then Ding is going to open up this position, and this king is not going to feel too happy either if the position starts opening up. Bishop g2 is more geared against f6, because now after f6, Gukesh could just castle and be very happy that his king's tucked away. So bishop g2, f6 is no longer strong, but now Ding just continues with a3. And here Gukesh finds the most accurate sequence of moves. He can't allow this to open up, so he goes b3, and after c takes, there's a nice little intermediate move here to go b4 first, ignoring this threat by creating a bigger threat, kicking the queen, and then taking in the center. And here Gukesh has got a nice space advantage, pieces are developed, but there is a big problem, which is this pawn is looking very weird. It's a backwards pawn on a semi-open file. And the other thing is this a3 pawn, although it's not a passed pawn at the moment, it's kind of fixing this a2 pawn as a weakness. So some very interesting dynamic play is about to happen. Now the question to Ding is how does he continue here? And the key thing is to kind of activate his pieces, and he finds the optimal plan. Knight comes out to b6, jumping into c4. Bishop retreats, and the bishop gets ready for action along this diagonal as well. Here there's a bunch of options for Gukesh, and he finds a very, very flexible move, probably the best move in this position, queen e2, connecting the rooks and just improving the queen. Takes, and Ding has found a fantastic plan here, which is to target this pawn on c3. Knight jumps into b2. This is a unusual outpost for a knight. You don't usually see an outpost on b2. I guess it's always going to be an outpost because you can't kick b2 with a pawn if you can get a pawn on a3. But the point is less to get the knight on b2. It's not doing that much on b2. It might jump into d3 later, but the main thing is just gang up on this c pawn. Gukesh defends, and Ding rightly continues ganging up on the pawn, and we get the first kind of inaccuracy of the game here, under pressure on this pawn. And here Gukesh plays rook a to c1, and the big problem with this move, although it's very natural, is it leaves a2 hanging. Instead, a move like bishop e1, although it looks quite passive, would be the way to keep the balance in this position. After rook a c1, Ding strikes like a tiger, and he senses the moment a2 is weak. Queen jumps into c4, eyeing up that pawn. And now if white plays slowly, Ding is just going to gobble up that pawn and have a nice advantage. So Gukesh is trying to crash through on the king side. But Ding here plays another fantastic move, queen to d3, ditching the attempt to win this pawn, but offering queen trades. Because strategically, if the queens get traded, Gukesh is going to be in trouble because he's got this long-term weakness on c3 and he's not going to checkmate. Now, queen f4 could be a way to keep the queens on. But Gukesh is potentially scared of g5, because if you take en passant, the queen takes back, and suddenly black is laughing here. The queen is coming back to defend, and this white king is just as dangerous, if not more in danger than the black king. So potentially here the queen would have to come back to g3, and if it gets traded off anyway, then again Ding is going to be very happy, potentially reroute the bishop like this to b6. So Gukesh picks queen to e1, but there is a huge problem with queen to e1, which is that he loses control of this diagonal. And Ding is back playing like peak Ding here. He jumps in with the top computer move. Bishop comes to g5, activating the bishop and hitting the rook. Rook needs to dodge. And here, instead of trying to attack the rook more, so a direct way of playing would be bishop a4, but that bishop can't move because f takes e6 comes, and even though you get this this rook, the king is gonna be in big trouble, and white's gonna win. Here, instead of attacking the rook directly, Ding attacks the defender of the rook by playing rook c4. Now there's a big threat of rook takes c4, followed by queen takes c2. And this is the moment where I think Gukesh is really in trouble here. The time advantage he had from the opening is completely gone as well. In fact, he's going to be in time pressure. He plays h4, attacking the bishop, but it doesn't really help because the bishop just stays on this diagonal calmly by Ding. And now he has to defend the rook. Queen comes to b1, but the pawn drops. And he's a pawn down. Now, it's a very complex position, so the game's not over. And after f takes e6, there's quite an important question to Ding on how does he take. Ding chooses f takes e6, which is actually a slight inaccuracy, because after knight e2, take. Here, Gukesh had the opportunity to play bishop c5, and even though he's a whole 3 pawns down, there is compensation with this king stuck in the middle and the bishop being inactive. Now, if you imagine he'd taken with the bishop in this position, so the bishop would be on e6 and the pawn back on f7, Ding would be much happier because the bishop would be active and there wouldn't be an open file on the f file. But Gukesh here slips up. He plays queen c2. Very logical in that he's activating the queen, but he potentially missed Ding's reply, which is queen c4. Again, offering queen trades. If the queens come off, Ding is going to easily win the endgame 2 pawns up. He has to dodge a queen trade, but now because of this inaccuracy, Ding gets his king castled, and the rest is just a clean-up operation. Bishop comes to d4, knight jumps back into d3, knight's not doing anything anymore, interfering with the defense of the bishop. And now, after a trade, the killer blow is e5, activating this bishop. Bishop takes, queen takes, and here it's just a matter of technique. Ding comes in to swap the bishop, and we just see getting a bit of air. Gukesh plays for one last trick here after Ding takes the pawn and he's going to queen. He plays check, and here Ding needs to avoid king h7 because queen takes on e4, and this pin means Gukesh would be able to win the queen and go into a drawn ending. But of course Ding just plays king h8. Now taking is not check, and before taking the queen you have an intermediate queen f2 check, and then you take the queen. So after king h8, Gukesh resigned, and I'm very happy to say it looks like peak Ding is coming back into business, guys. And after winning this game against Gukesh, reason number 4 Ding is going to win is because of his record against Gukesh. After the win, Ding is now on 3 wins and 1 draw against Gukesh. That's going to give him a deep psychological edge going into matches, having such an incredible unbeaten record. On top of that, there might be something deeper at play in terms of chess styles, where Ding is a natural counter against Gukesh's deep calculation ability. My final reason Ding is going to win is because of his phenomenal resilience, what I like to call Dingsilience. Ding is incredibly resilient as a chess player, but he's even more resilient and inspiring as a person. On the chess front, in his 2022 World Championship match against Russian genius Nepomniachtchi, Nepo took first blood in Game 2, and Ding never ever led the match. But Ding showed his fighting spirit and Dingsilience, never giving up and finding a way to keep himself in the match, even when it seemed hopeless. Now, outside of chess, for those of you that don't know, Ding suffered from depression after becoming world champion. Depression is no joke, and I hope you and your loved ones never have to go through it. But in this day and age, people watch too many YouTube videos to have good mental health. Anyways, recovering from depression takes a lot of work and resilience. Dingsilience. If Ding can recover from depression, recovering from whatever happens during the match will be a piece of cake. So, go place your bets on Ding. And please, remember to share your winnings with me now that I'm an unemployed chess master.